Nicolas Hulscher is here. He's an epidemiologist with the McCullough Foundation, and he recently wrote up a report that discusses this article that came from Reuters on June 20th. Exclusive: USDA develops potential plan to vaccinate poultry for bird flu. And they don't really say a whole lot, Nicholas, about the details that they got from their USDA informants, whoever these people were. They go into detail about bird flu and the cost of killing all these chickens, and they have like a former USDA veterinarian talking about it, and so they go into the, the really like the effects that we've seen, rising egg prices, for instance, but they don't really say a whole lot about what this informant tells them, other than this sentence here, which is: the U.S. Department of Agriculture is considering a potential plan to vaccinate poultry against bird flu for the first time that includes evaluating how it would affect exports, the agency told Reuters this week. Am I missing something? I mean, that's all I got out of their article that was new. You know what I didn't see anything else. Am I missing more? Was there more detail to the plan that you saw?
Yeah, Reuters does not provide much detail at all regarding this plan. They don't discuss the risks of mass vaccinating poultry. They don't even discuss which vaccine is on the table. But I did some further investigation and tried to find out, well, hold on, what vaccine is it going to be? Is it going to be mRNA? Is it going to be antigen based? What's it going to be? And I also looked into, well, what are the risks of mass vaccinating poultry that Reuters did not want to include in the article. And we came up with some answers. And these answers are, unfortunately not what we want to hear. So let's start with the risks of mass vaccinating poultry against bird flu during a bird flu outbreak. All right, so there's two studies. One study is by Lee and colleagues. This was published a few months ago. They found that mass vaccinating poultry against bird flu accelerates mutation rates. So it leads to the development of new strains that evade the vaccine protection, which can in turn increase the jump to humans and increase the risk of a human pandemic. That was Lee and colleagues. Then we have a study by Reed and colleagues who found that experimentally, vaccination of poultry against Marek's disease actually led to the emergence of highly transmissible hyperpathogenic strains. And so basically, what we take from this is when you vaccinate chicken with an imperfect or what's called a non sterilizing vaccine, which doesn't prevent infection and still allows them to get infected. When you introduce these imperfect vaccines, it leads to these mutations that can result in catastrophic consequences. And it's just something that it's not worth the risks of doing this. It really isn't. While you might, while they claim that it's going to protect the chickens from death, you're going to just be you won't have a clue what's going to really happen, right? So they won't test. They're not going to So all right. So now let's go into what vaccine they picked. So they picked what appears to be that will be in this plan is the H5N2 vaccine by a company called Zoetis. Right. So we thought it could be mRNA, but it appears that it will likely be this one by Zoetis because they actually already conditionally approved it back in February. And what that means is it's already ready for mass distribution and rollout once they get the green light by the USDA. And this is the only one with that conditional approval. And so this is an inactivated virus vaccine, right? So it's not mRNA, but it's a leaky vaccine or a non-sterilizing vaccine. So we know that if they use this product, it will likely lead to the development of these highly transmissible pathogenic strains. And this plan, in my opinion, should not even be on the table.
All right. I want to follow up and ask you about articles that I see like this. Trump administration cancels plans to develop a bird flu vaccine, because I've heard from some people like, no, 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 we're not doing it. We stopped all that. We don't have to worry anymore. But before you answer that, if you are I don't know, you could give this to your chickens. I would probably give this to my chickens. I mean, it's not cheap, so I probably, and cheap, no pun intended, cheap. But anyway, I would probably just save it for myself, because this is some amazing, like greenpasture.org. They've got awesome stuff, but the stuff I'm going to tell you about right now, and if you use promo code Allison, you get 10% off. But the stuff I'm going to tell you about now, the fermented cod liver oil concentrated butter oil blend, is a product that I take every night, and my kids take it, and I've been taking it for over a decade. I used to get cavities all the time. It is like supercharged vitamin D, A, and K. Dr. Weston Price, who is a biological dentist, meaning like a dentist tried to avoid chemicals and do more natural treatments with his patients. He was noticing in the early 20th century that a lot of his patients were getting cavities, and he blamed malnutrition. He actually traveled the world and studied people who did not have dental care, but lived very close to their food sources and had no cavities. And this was basically the formulation that he came up with, watching what these people ate, was organ meats. And the butter oil is what has the vitamin K in it. So you put these together, and it gives your body the most bioavailability and use for it. If you took just a fish oil, or you just took a butter oil, you wouldn't get as much bang for your buck. I went 3 years one time, no cavities, even though I used to go to the dentist every 6 months, and I would always have cavities. So it really has helped me. And it's not just great for dental health. It's just a wonderful product for anti-inflammation. For instance, is full of omega 3s and great fatty acids. So go check it out, greenpasture.org. Promo code Allison gets you 10% off. They're a great company, very free speech and health freedom oriented. And I love working with them. Okay, so let's go back to my question about how some people are like, we don't have to worry about it anymore. We see headlines like this. Obviously the mainstream media was actually quite annoyed that we, seem to have stopped looking into this. Why do we do this? It's going to be, a disaster. They're screwing it up again, just like they screwed up COVID. And we're never going to get a bird flu vaccine, even though it just really does feel like the mainstream news is just dying for a bird flu vaccine. Like they really want a bird flu vaccine. So what do you say to people when they say, look, NPR told me we don't have to worry about it anymore?
Right. Well, so what this is speaking about is the Biden administration was giving like hundreds of millions of dollars for the development of Moderna's mRNA bird flu shot. And they wanted to make that vaccine because they keep thinking that bird flu is going to become a human pandemic. And so they poured in all that money for a dangerous platform, the mRNA platform. And so it appears that the new HHS administration has pulled that funding for the Moderna shot, but what people have to understand is that's completely irrelevant to the animal products, the animal vaccines that they're developing. And so clearly, like we saw the Reuters article, like the USDA stated, they are still planning and trying to develop a plan to vaccinate the poultry. Now, it's obviously is a positive development to stop funding another dangerous mRNA product for bird flu, but we also have to remember that there are other types of genetic products for bird flu under development still in the United States, and that includes the self-amplifying replicon bird flu vaccine by Arcturus Therapeutics. It appears that trial is still ongoing. The FDA did greenlight a trial a few months ago for this self-amplifying mRNA shot. And so it appears to be being tested in humans at the moment. So, there are still many other mRNA products. We still have to remain vigilant here.
Over on Locals, AllisonMorrow.locals.com, where you can be on my editorial board for $5 a month and putting questions for people like Nicholas ahead of time. There were a few questions about, I guess, the concerns over what happens if we eat a chicken who gets this vaccine. We know what would happen. Would we get vaccinated? I mean, what do we get if we eat that? Or eggs from a chicken who's been vaccinated? Are those? Do we know anything about the safety or transmission of that? And then also a question about if we order chicks, for instance, from a hatchery for our own farm or homestead, are they automatically going to come vaccinated, or could we have a choice about it? I'm just curious, what do you know about all that? So I guess the first question is eating chickens or eggs who have this vaccine or any vaccine, I guess, for that matter? And then also, do we have a choice of say, all right, we don't want to just eat anybody's chickens at the grocery store anymore because we don't know? Are we doomed even if we order our own chickens? Are they just going to come this way? It's going to be, people are going to be ordered to vaccinate their kid or their chickens. They're just going to be like, hey, if you have chicks in the United States, you got to vaccinate them.
That's definitely a possibility. So right now, most of this stuff is completely unknown. They haven't studied it, but you're right. So if they do all of a sudden initiate a bird flu emergency, national emergency, they will likely mandate farmers to inoculate their chickens. That would not surprise me one bit. But regarding the safety of consuming vaccinated poultry products or any animal products for that matter, it is likely going to pose some risks. Now, if they inject the poultry with mRNA, that would likely be a disaster. You would still have the possibility of intact mRNA or DNA contaminants from the injection still in the chicken's tissues. That's definitely a possibility. It could alter the chicken's genome for all we know, and you'd be consuming then possibly coming into contact with the vaccine components. And as a result, for all you know, uptaking this mRNA and producing the H5N1 antigens that it's instructed to produce. Now, that's a possibility. It's possible that, and likely that cooking would destroy a large portion of the vaccine components, but we don't know because they haven't tested that.
Well, if you want a good glass of wine for your non-vaccinated chicken, you go to AllisonWinePromo.com and join my wine club. Here's my bottle. Okay, my prop bottle, I always have it here. This one is from Chile. We have Chile, Argentina, Spain, France. These are all hand selected for the kind of wines I like. I'm the person who cleans with vinegar. I do not use fluoride in my toothpaste. I'm trying to think of all the other things. I don't dye my hair anymore. I drink raw milk. Okay, so I'm not going to drink wine that I think is full of all kinds of chemicals. And so that's how Bonner Wine picked the wines for my wine club. They're all very clean products. They come from family vineyards that in some cases have been around for 5 generations, 200-year-old vineyards. The one in Argentina, one of the bottles comes from in the current club, which by the way, if you sign up for the club, you will get a shipment every 3 months. You get 6 bottles every 3 months. And so you can give them away if you want to just have something on hand for a present. You can drink them while you watch the terrible headlines in the news. But you will not be disappointed, whatever you do with it. It's just, they're all great. They're all great bottles of wine. And so you'll just love the taste, but you'll also know that you're drinking a product that is not like full of all the dyes and fillers and stuff that are often in grocery store wine. So go to AllisonWinePromo.com, sign up your friend, sign yourself up, mom, dad, whatever, and tell them that I sent you. Thanks for everybody who's in the wine club.